All right, Coach, how would you evaluate spring practice?
We got a lot of work in. I think we worked the guys harder than they used to working, and we got a lot better, which is what you want in spring. As a head coach, you're always happy when you just don't have a lot of season-ending injuries in spring, and they can happen. I think we only had one. Justin Royas, one of our transfer right guards, is going to have surgery. Other than that, I think we had some minor things. We got out pretty healthy, and we got better as a football team.
How do you think throwing a lot of the playbook at him paid off for you over the course of spring?
It's good and bad. I think we skipped over and flew over a lot of detail that we're going to have to circle back and cover, but that was kind of the plan. Rather than to be simple and fine-tune everything before we move on, we wanted to throw the majority of the playbook at them and let them at least have heard it and digest it and understand what it means. And summer's going to be really important for us. Fall camp's going to be really important for us to put the finishing touches on a lot of things.
How challenging was this wrapping up this camp with the portal opening up on Wednesday and trying to deal with all that mess?
Our kids have done a great job with it, and I think the number one thing we can do to make sure that we try to retain our talent here is have an environment that they enjoy coming to, where they have people that they know actually care about them. We got some really good men on this coaching staff that genuinely care about the guys and want what's best for them, and there's a ton of opportunity here. When we have a place that kids enjoy coming, you don't have as many that want to leave, and I'm sure there'll still be some movement, but for the most part, I think the guys are pretty happy here.
What is it that you've seen through spring practice that makes you most excited about this team as we move forward?
It's still potential right now, but I see a lot of people getting better. There's some guys that were here before that have surprised me. I think the staff did a good job evaluating a lot of the additions that we made, and those guys showed up and were as good, or in some cases even better than what we expected. And we got the makings of a really solid team, but we have a long way to go still.
You look at about the growth of your quarterbacks in years in Coach Cooper's system and how they've been elevated throughout this process.
Yeah, I think throwing the whole playbook at them is probably toughest on the quarterbacks. There's just a lot, and our defense gave us a lot too, as far as movement up front and changing the looks on them. And I think at times it looked really good at quarterback. At times we probably did them a disservice by throwing so much at them, and the detail wasn't there. But I saw improvement by all the guys that are here, and I don't think that is completely unveiled itself as to the order of those guys right now, but they've all done some good things.
You look at the quarterback. Oh, you go.
Is it Justin Royas is out for the season? I know Dana Farmer kind of hinted that he might be out as well.
I forgot Data, yeah. That was unfortunate. It was just a non-contact cut that he made, and he was doing some really good things too, so we're excited about Day going forward, but he's going to have his knee worked on here in a little while.
You look at the quarterback position, you mentioned that. You lose a guy like Dylan Risk. Is that a position of maybe you might look at into the portal maybe to try to add some areas of depth? We really tried as a coaching staff to focus on what we have here. Obviously, I think we're more prepared going into a second portal, which I don't think anybody in the country likes, this second portal, but going into this, I think we have a little better understanding of where we are. That when you're a new coach and they bring in, you're having to take other guys' words on what guys are like on the current team, and you're working off not enough information. I think we have more information now. Certainly more pleased with a lot of the pieces we have on the team than maybe we even expected to be, and I hope there's not major turnover. If there's a few ways and additions that we can make to make our team better, we'll try to.
What area of need do you most have?
I don't know if there's a real hole right now, which is good. That being said, I mean, when teams go into drafts in any sport, sometimes it's positions in need, sometimes it's best available. And I think we've got good enough players on this team that, for the most part, I think anything that we did beyond this point would just be best way to make the team better and best available.
Is there a position group that surprised you or maybe made the most strides during spring?
Across the board, I saw strides. One of our issues is going to be we have talent at a lot of places. We're inexperienced at some. We're inexperienced at safety. We're inexperienced at wide receiver. Largely inexperienced at quarterback. The talent's there at almost every position. It's a matter of getting those guys game ready. and you never really know until you see him operate in games. So we're going to have to work through that as a team and as a coaching staff.
Scott, you mentioned that the defense is coming out aggressive. Now it's 2 weeks later. Have you seen that same aggression? And what does that say about this defense? How is that going to uplift this group moving forward?
Yeah, I thought the defense just consistently got better over the course of the spring. We got some really good pieces, some new additions that played really well. And one of the big things on offense and defense that we really need to identify is leadership at this point. I think I've said this before, but we've intentionally not elevated guys into leadership roles yet until we were familiar with the guys, and with as many new players as we brought in, that all kind of had to work itself out. But now a team is powerful when a lot of leadership comes from inside the locker room instead of all of it coming from the coaching staff, and I think we're going to have to empower some of those people very soon to make sure that the leadership is horizontal within the locker room instead of all coming down from on top.
When you go forward now, we're not having talking about a depth chart, but do you have like an idea of maybe where some guys are at, and maybe that gives you a better understanding as you guys move to the offseason and things?
Yeah, I think we'll sit down as a coaching staff and kind of figure out where we are right now in terms of each position and kind of a hierarchy at that position. But we're 13 practices in. We have a whole summer. We have a whole fall camp. So nothing's set in stone right now. And I think we have an idea of where guys might slip in, but there's still some guys with a chance to come up and change that too.
I like the Tennessee situation. What happened in Tennessee with losing their quarterback and everything in the portal and walking out. Is that something you've thought about, or is that something as a coach you look at what's going on with the state of college football?
Well, I don't ever really want to comment on anybody else's program or any other kids. I don't have all the details on that. All I will say is that, it's easy to get the wrong people in your ear sometimes and get bad advice and not necessarily even talking about that situation. I just think in general there's people in some of these players' ear that don't always have best interests in mind, and you have a tendency in life to think grass is always greener somewhere else, and usually it's not. And when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you think money's everything, and it's not. Happiness and success are way more important than that, and I've learned that personally. I'm happy here and happy to be back here, and I think sometimes decisions are made for the wrong reasons, but that's life, and hopefully we can try to educate guys too as much as we can, and mentor them as much as we can to help them make good decisions.
Have you encountered any situations of like trying to renegotiate terms, on whether it's NIL related, or have you encountered any other situations maybe they have faced up there?
Any situations what?
With renegotiating any of the terms of some of these NIL agreements?
Yes. I don't think anybody's really happy with the situation we're in now, except maybe the institutions that have just unlimited money to spend and they want to keep that advantage. If people really knew what went on, it's a mess. It's constant negotiation, and it's a bidding war for every single player, whether they're in the portal or not. That's the reality, whether people want to admit it or not. And it's a sad state if a sport as beautiful as college football is won by the people with the richest boosters. And that's kind of where we are right now. But hopefully they're trying to put some guardrails around it, and I think it would make the game a better game if there were at least some restrictions and rules in place.
Ja'Carri Brown, I know you recruited him when you were in Nebraska. He's one of the returning quarterbacks. What kind of strides did he make under your system this spring?
Yeah, Ja'Carri made huge strides. From what I saw on tape right when I got here to where he is now, it's completely different. A guy like that, I wish I would have had a chance to coach for 4 years. But you see the improvement now. I got to compliment him too, just on who he is as a person, and his leadership and influence amongst the team is really good. So there's definitely a place for him here, and we'll see how everything works out.
And what about Taven Jackson coming in from Indiana? I know he's been a backup before. How did you like him this spring?
Same thing. He's done some really, really good things. He's still learning too. And, part of that's just being in this situation. He's on his third team in however many years, and I don't know how many different systems, but that's hard too. And especially at that position, like I said, it's hard to operate at a really, really high level unless you're unless you know the scheme inside and out and you can just play. And, I saw a few times all those quarterbacks look great, and other times they look like, the just paralysis by analysis. Everything's moving too fast. They don't know it cold, and that affects it a little bit. At that position too, if somebody messes up in front of them or runs the wrong route, the whole play doesn't look good and the quarterback doesn't look good. It's not always on the quarterback. So I saw a lot of improvement from all those guys, and the battle's not over.
And right now, Cam Fancher, I know he was unavailable the last part of spring. It looked like he banged up his fingers at the open practice. He has the most experience out of the group. How did Cam do?
Same thing. I saw Cam do a lot of really, really good things. Still some improvement to be made. He's played the most football of the group, which I think gave him a little bit of a jump and head start, and just his level of comfort with operating things. But again, I think with any one of those guys, we could be a formidable offense and team.
You talk about elevating guys to leadership roles. What can be said about returners to this program? I know it's a new system under you, but guys like John Walker, Jakari Brown, and getting new guys acclimated.
Yeah, one of the things we're also dealing with this spring is a lot of the guys that I think will probably end up being good leaders for our team weren't practicing. Braden Marshall was out, and John Walker was out, and Malachi was out. Those are some guys that we think we're going to lean on a little bit, that have been around and have more of a veteran presence. It's hard to have that voice when you're not out in the huddle with the guys every snap. So again, that's got to kind of all find itself, and we'll do some things coming off spring ball to help give those guys an opportunity to step into those type of roles, and then let the team decide who the best leaders are.
What's next over the next couple months of the offseason before you guys get into fall camp?
The schedule fell a little funny this year. We started semester really early, so we're done with spring ball early, and the semester ends early. Our guys are going to get probably much needed time off, and it's more time off than normal between now and summer conditioning, just because of the way the calendar fell. I think we worked the guys harder this offseason and in spring ball than they were used to working, so it's probably good to get a lot of time off feet and then gear up for the next run. You look at the year as 4 segments. Basically, you got your winter conditioning, your spring ball, and then your summer, and then you head into the fall. We did a good job in winter conditioning, improving the team. I think we did a good job in spring ball, and so we're going to take a little time off. Then it's on to the next segment of the year, and we got to try to make as much ground up in that time as we can.
You've said several times we have a long way to go. Can some of that be made up when you're not on the field?
Absolutely. Summer's going to be important for us, because now that we've introduced a lot of things to the players, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to sit and watch tape with them, explain things in more detail to them, continue working out. We kind of made a choice as a staff in the winter that we thought we needed a lot of work in the weight room. I think probably running and conditioning wasn't emphasized as much, because we thought we had to spend the time in the weight room to get a good base for the guys. So, this summer we can catch up on some of that. Hopefully that limits some of our soft tissue injuries that we had during spring. There's a lot of things, team coming together, team camaraderie, identifying leaders, empowering leaders, continuing to know scheme, getting in better shape, getting stronger. There's a lot of things that can be done in summer to make you better.
You overall happy with the spring and can look forward to the fall?
Yeah, I think overall, I'd say spring was a success. We're certainly not game ready, but if we look back at where we were in January or where we were at the start of spring, I think we've come a long way from there. But again, we're playing catch up. I mean, this was a 4-8 football team last year. Probably could have been better, but we got to make sure that we're a better football team when we take the field in September than we were last year, and we're ready to compete. I think, changing the mindset of a team that hasn't won at a high level and having a winning culture, that takes work, and it takes a little bit of luck. You can do all the right things, and sometimes it still doesn't turn around, but we're going to try to help the guys to get over that hurdle, and the biggest part of that is believing in it, and then when you get out on the field, taking advantage of your chances in close games.
What do you think of the running back room between Miles Montgomery, Jaden Nixon, Stacey Gage, and some young guys?
Yeah, I would compliment that room. I love all those guys. They all had a good spring. a couple of the guys were kind of in the background with RJ last year, and he was certainly a special player. I think that now they're going to get their chance, and we'll see what they become. Gotten a lot of good leadership out of that room too, particularly from Miles, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the guys that ends up having a leadership role on this.
Wide receiver has a lot of newcomers this spring. Who have you seen kind of emerge from that group?
Yeah, there's a pack of them, and keeping them healthy was an issue. We just run more than I think most teams run, and ask the guys to sprint more and run more routes, and we had a lot of nicks and pulls and strains. The guys that came through it healthy spent a lot, and that's why they need some time off. But we got a pack of talented guys, a little bit inexperienced, but a pack of talented guys, and I think the talent's there. We just got to get them game ready.
What about your offensive line? What did you see there? How'd you like those guys work?
Yeah, I think we added some good pieces there, and I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of the guys that were already here. We need to get in better shape at that position, but probably the most promising thing for me at that position was watching the old and the new come together and kind of form a unit. Coach Clark's doing a great job with those guys, and I'm really glad to have him. He gives me not just a lead position coach, but somebody that sat in the head coach's seat and I can have those conversations with. So I'm really glad to have him around.
Scott, it's been a whirlwind for you to get here, to get this job, to get everything going with spring ball. For you, what is the next couple months involved? Do you kind of get a chance to take a break and stuff?
What's been funny to me is the portal was a nightmare. Then when that was over, it felt like I was just a coach again. It felt the same. And then it's just a matter of improving your team on and off the field and developing a culture and relationships with guys. And now we're going to go through another portal season that's not going to be any fun. And then we get back to doing what we love to do, is coaching again. First thing I got to do is get my family down here. We made the decision to keep Ashley and I made the decision to keep the kids in school until the semester was over, and that's getting hard on me to be away from her and the kids. So we'll get them down here soon, and life will feel normal for me.
When you have to deal with the portal and so many different moving parts, how important is it to have the coaching staff that you do in place to support you in those moments and help out with different things?
The coaching staff's been great. I mean, across the board. To mention Kmart, he's done a really good job kind of being the bridge between what happened before and what had happened. He was really important in the first portal, and him and Coach Beck to give me an idea of what we already had, because I was working on very little information, obviously. But I'll say it again, I think we've developed good camaraderie on the team and good relationships between position coaches and players, good relationships between coordinators and players, and good relationships hopefully between me and players. And at the end of the day, when you're happy, it makes you less likely to want to do something else. And I think the assistant coaches have done a really good job of that.
Coach, when the players come in, let's talk about how you are a player's coach and the relationship they can kind of have with you and talk about anything. How have you seen that from your perspective with the players and, like you said, building that relationship with the players themselves?
Yeah, I was in their shoes. I was a player. I played for both types of coaches, the ones that just yelled at you all the time and the ones that you knew cared about you. In general, I want to have a program where we motivate through inspiration, not intimidation, and that's worked for us here before, and it'll work again. That being said, the guys got to understand what the standard is and what the expectations are, and I'm going to be hard on them if they're not living up to that. And anybody that's worth their salt in life wants to be pushed and held accountable, and I want a team full of those guys.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Have a good holiday.